Thanks for joining me this week on the show. I am grateful for you this Thanksgiving season here in the US. And today we're going to take a little exploration into a topic that might be a little bit triggering for you. That's forgiveness. How forgiving others, forgiving yourself, can heal you, can lighten your load, and can bring peace through our holiday season and well beyond. Thanks for joining me this week. It's time to flip the script on stress and learn how to thrive today and throughout your days. Join me for inspiration and interviews with folks who are shining their light in the world in the areas of positive mindset, health, and well-being. I'm your host, Susi Vine. Let's get happified. Welcome back. I am so happy to have you with me this week on the show. Grateful doesn't even begin to cover it. I am releasing this episode on Thanksgiving here in the US, and I wanted today to explore a topic that you may or may not think goes right along with gratitude, but I feel that forgiveness is something that doesn't always come naturally, certainly does not always come easily to us. However, when we look at ways to explore, to extend, to practice forgiveness, I feel like that brings us into a deeper alignment and relationship with gratitude. Stick with me, and I hope you'll see that connection as well. So thanks for making time to join me. I know this is a busy season, although aren't they all? So whenever you are catching this episode, I'm grateful for your presence, whether you're catching this on one of the podcast platforms, the video on YouTube, or on my website, happifiedlife.com. I hope you will leave a review, leave a comment, join the conversation. In Facebook, I lead the group Live with Less Stress, if Facebook is still your jam, if you're one of those dinosaurs like myself. And I look forward to engaging with you and bringing more episodes that are relevant, that are supportive, and that bring insights to help you expand your perspective of what's possible. And I think that you'll find that forgiveness is right along those lines. We live in very challenging and very divided times. And so even more so than a little while back, in the before times, as I like to call it, before the pandemic, even then we were feeling pretty divided as a country, as people. In the further evolution of the internet, we tend to find more and more validation for the way that we think, what we believe, who we believe is right or wrong, what kind of actions are permissible or inexcusable, unforgivable. And the lines have become more and more stark. And I believe that in order to grow through these experiences that we are all living through, in order to come out wiser and with better perspective on the other side, there are some things that we need to come back to. So the way that I want to take a look at forgiveness is not only from that airy-fairy, wouldn't life be easier if we weren't just shouldering the burden of the way that we feel about those who have done us wrong, but really taking a look at the impact emotionally, mentally, physically, the way that it perpetuates the stress cycle that I hope by now you are aware is not doing us any favors. In order to cultivate resilience, in order for us to have the capacity to heal and thrive the way that our bodies are designed to do, it's essential to find ways to break out of the stress cycle. Bearing grudges, holding judgments, remembering and reminding ourselves how people have done us wrong, that impact upon ourselves as we perceive it, is all perpetuating this cycle of stress that is actually doing you physical harm. You might have heard people say that forgiveness isn't a gift for the person you are forgiving. It is a gift you give yourself. And I think by the end of our conversation today, you're going to be able to see that a little more clearly as well. So suspend your disbelief for me, will you? And let's stick in. So I want to acknowledge too, that we are in divided times, and as the holidays approach, can be stressful in and of itself as we think about coming together with family. They may be close, they may be far, we may be on the other side of political or ideological divides. And so this is why I feel like this is a really important topic, even if you're tempted to fast forward through this episode, right now, where we are in our human experience. So first of all, I want to acknowledge why forgiveness feels hard, why we naturally want to keep the score. Who's done us wrong and how many times, who will never take advantage of us again. It all comes from the way that fundamentally we are wired. You might have heard, I certainly share it often, that bad experiences are like Velcro and good experiences are like Teflon. We remember the things that have hurt us. We remember the scary and the bad experiences much more easily than remember when everything went right, when people had our back, when we felt fully supported, when we exceeded at a challenge and we were successful. We should stop and revel in those moments. However, what comes back, what sticks in our memory banks are those difficult experiences. And that's because stress is a powerful teacher. We're wired to remember the things that are going to teach us lessons that are going to serve us in the future. That's our basic animal survival instincts going on. That's the amygdala, the lizard brain, if you will. So we're wired for threat detection. Holding on to these resentments feels protective. And when we recognize that our basic wiring is supporting that, and we have taken benefit from it, we have learned a lesson, we will not leave ourselves open in that regard again, that is supportive to our personal growth and evolution. However, then we get to choose to move beyond our basic wiring and recognize that getting stuck in this loop, that triggering these old memories and stirring up those emotions in order to teach ourselves a lesson is really keeping us stuck. Triggering those stress hormones with these difficult memories, with conjuring up the difficult emotions along with the experiences, makes emotional release even harder. Ruminating over these prior experiences can feel like control. We will maintain the upper hand. However, that rumination is what keeps us stuck in the emotion, in the lesson. Trust me when I tell you, you've already learned that lesson. It's okay to let yourself begin to let it go. Some people are waiting for justice. Some people are waiting for an apology, waiting for accountability that they deem fair before they're able to consider forgiveness. However, how well does that system work? There are systems outside of ourselves. There are systems of accountability and judgment. And a lot of times that is so far out of our hands. However, that is the system that we currently have to work with. If there are changes you see possible in that system, then there are actions you can take to transform or reform the system. But again, by holding this judgment, by withholding forgiveness over somebody because you feel that they haven't paid their dues, served their time, put forth their accountability, or expressed the right emotion of repentance, is again only holding you glued to this situation when breaking free of it would grant you healing mentally, emotionally, and physically. So when you feel like you don't want to let someone off the hook, think about how, in the reflection of that, you are keeping yourself tethered to this experience, to the emotions, and to everything that is heavy, that is difficult, that is painful about that experience. Now, we are creatures who have an identity. right? The left brain of us wants to know who we are and how we show up in the world, and our ego is a big part. And when we feel wronged, our ego identity ties to that wound. That is someone who has hurt me. I deserved better. They should not have been allowed to do that. And again, we can transcend from that identification only as ego, who we are and how the world is treating us, to recognize, come along with me, you know I like to get a little woo on the show. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and I know you are too, wherever you are on your journey, that you can let them go. That by letting them go, you're allowing your own healing. By recognizing that we are all connected. It is not a matter of us and them. It's a matter of we. We are all learning lessons, and some of us have difficult experiences in order to facilitate the lessons that other people are here to learn. If that feels too heavy for you, let me put forth that, one, so far you have survived all of your worst days. And two, instead of post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic threat, we can look for ways. You can look at what experiences have taught you, how they have made you stronger. You can look at how you can be a post-traumatic survivor and thriver through these experiences. When you take control away from these people by withholding forgiveness, by keeping the blame placed on them, you're disempowering yourself. You can reclaim your power by not giving that power away, by recognizing that your healing matters, that you don't need to carry the score, and that we can all move through this together. We can all collectively learn from our experiences if we put our focus where it's actually doing benefit. As I said, by looking for ways, if the system is broken, to transform or reform the system, by looking for ways to help other survivors learn the lessons that you have learned by moving through this. Look for ways that you are in your power, because you still have all of the power that you claim for yourself. And forgiveness is actually an extraordinarily powerful way to free yourself. So let's go back about the emotional, the mental, and the physical benefits of forgiveness, right? Let's keep it to the facts. There's a spiritual side of this, and there is the physical body we are living in and how this is working for us. So first, at the more spiritual level, the emotional benefits of experiencing, of practicing forgiveness. You will experience and continue to experience lower emotional reactivity. You know that I really encourage you to pause and consider your response and to recognize the difference between responding and reacting. When we are simply reacting, we don't have the power in the situation to create the outcome that is in our highest and best, that is in the highest and best good for everybody involved. When we look for ways to pause and to recognize, instead of reacting, we can respond. We have so much more power, so much more balance, so much more space for that heart-centeredness that we are designed to live and thrive within. That's that level at which, beyond our physical bodies, we are connecting. Our heart coherence goes out and comes in, and we are connected and experiencing all of this together. So as you look for ways to practice forgiveness, even where it's difficult, you are lowering your emotional reactivity and building your ability to respond. You're relieving resentment, anger, looping thoughts, wearing that groove, that old groove in the record, that mental story that just keeps coming back for you because you're ruminating on the experience. You're trying to make sure you learned that lesson. You can start to let that go. And with that, you start to feel greater feelings of spaciousness, of compassion, of self-agency, self-power, because you haven't given away the power of how people make you feel to those other people. You get to reclaim that power. You get to choose how you are responding to situations, present and in the past. And you will find improved relationships, whether that's family across the Thanksgiving table, in making plans for holidays, in making plans for the way that you want your family to be together, to grow together. When forgiveness happens, even in your own body, even something that you're working on, you don't have to have the conversation with someone unless you choose to, unless there's a clearing of the air that's going to benefit you. And at that point in time, you can broach that. Even when you personally, internally, silently are working on forgiving someone else, these relationships have more space to come together, for understanding to grow, for you to see the person who you are engaging with and get beyond that conception, that image that you are carrying in your mind. Reconnect with the person who's really in front of you. Take a moment to consider who they are, where they're coming from, and why they might have done something that triggered you, that hurt you. Because it is not always with the malicious intent that we assign to these actions. So the mental benefits of forgiveness: clearer thinking, less mental fog. Again, if you can break yourself out of that redundant loop, you've got so much more space, not only for different emotions to come up and move through us the way that emotions do, but for different thoughts to come in, for capacity for growth. You'll have less of the rumination that I've been talking about and less stress. We're going to really dig into the physical weight of these stress responses that we are triggering as we remind ourselves over and over again of how we've been wronged. And you will enjoy better decision making. You won't be acting from the place of that protectiveness, defensiveness, these old stories that are shaping your perspective of the world. You're going to have a broader perspective. When we're stressed, we get very, very narrow. We get very, very focused on what is in front of us, and that is all we can relate to. When we are out of that stress response, when we become more balanced, we have so much more available to be seen, more resources available, more responses available to us, and more benefit is possible. All right, so now I'd like to dig into the physical benefits, because this is so powerful. Again, we are wired to respond to stress. We are wired to keep the score. And thanks to neuroplasticity, we can move ourselves beyond that. We can experience different outcomes because we are more than our basic physiological response, right? So let's take a look at the burden of holding these grudges, of keeping these scores, and keeping ourselves tethered to these experiences, these memories that have so much control over us. Research shows that forgiveness isn't just good for the soul. It lowers your blood pressure, it reduces cortisol, it improves your sleep, it boosts immune function, it eases chronic pain, improves heart health, and even can support your longevity. Your body loves it when you let go. So quickly, how is this all true? How is forgiveness really all that it's cracked up to be? The stress response engenders a cortisol response. Cortisol raises your blood pressure, and over time and repeated exposure causes cardiovascular damage by perpetually triggering your physiological response. People who practice forgiveness in research studies are found to have a lower resting blood pressure and better heart rate variability. That's our capacity of resilience that we can measure. We can measure through the heart rate variability its ability to come back into balance through stressful and recovering from stressful instances, at how well our full body capacity to recover is. Reduced cardiovascular reactivity during stressful events. As I mentioned, the heart doesn't spike as hard when you're recalling stressful memories because we're letting go of some of that story that is tied to our stress response. A landmark study in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine found that people who are more forgiving experience significantly lower blood pressure and heart rate than those who hold on to resentments. And another study in the American Journal of Cardiology shows that actively practicing forgiveness reduces the cardiac workload and improves your blood flow. So when you forgive, your heart literally doesn't have to work as hard. Let yourself rest. Let yourself experience the recovery of letting go. When we decrease the stress hormones that come with culling these painful memories back again and again and again, we have less cortisol and less adrenaline in our system. Research from the Stanford Forgiveness Project found that forgiveness practices significantly lower cortisol levels, meaning less chronic stress on the body, which, as we've already looked at, looks at cardiovascular impact, has been found to cause some types of cancer, impacts your sleep, your immune system response, inflammation, and so many factors of our physical well-being. Less cortisol has less inflammation, better metabolism, improved immune function, and easier sleep. Sleep is healing. Sleep is when our minds detox, when they're literally washed by the lymphatic system, when memories are filed and stored and we have better access to long-term memory. When we live in stress, our mind is not as capable of filing those memories. So we're actually losing the ability to create new memories by retrenching ourselves in these old memories that are holding us back. Doesn't it feel like a good reason to let go? When we have less resentment or intrusive thoughts related to past hurts, studies show that we fall asleep more quickly, we sleep more deeply, and experience fewer nighttime awakenings. So it's not only releasing that endless track that's keeping your mind busy when you're trying to fall asleep, it actually is seen to improve all aspects of your sleep. If you're losing sleep over something, forgiveness might be the release valve your nervous system is waiting for. You know, I love the gratitude practice, writing down 3 things that you're grateful for before you go to sleep at night or first thing in the morning when you wake up to set the tone for your day. You can also write down 3 things that you're ready to let go, or just one, and journal on that. Journal on what it is, how it's affected you, how might you feel when this isn't affecting you anymore. Let that ease its way out of your mind. Turn off the loop by putting it down on paper. Keep that journal close to your bed and write about what comes up. We don't always have to engender feelings of gratitude, although we know that does wire our brain for more happiness. If what's really relevant, it's what's really pressing, is this feeling of resentment, of this burden that you're carrying, then it's time to bring a little bit of examination to that and see how that might benefit your sleep. Chronic inflammation and immune issues can be resolved as we practice forgiveness. We're lowering the stress hormones and inflammatory markers, which over time hold back our immune system and its optimal function. And research, again, is showing connection with a higher level of protective immune cell activity, lower levels of inflammation, and faster recovery from illness in people who practice forgiveness. And as we know, you don't have to knock it out of the park. We're not aiming for perfect. Practice. Come with the beginner's mind. Ask what if. What if I can let this go? What if I can free myself from this lesson that I keep trying to teach myself by holding them accountable? What if I let my body heal the way that it's designed to do? What if I release this burden and lighten my own load? Participants in compassion and forgiveness programs show significant improvements in immune system performance, particularly in natural killer cell activity, which is essential for fighting infections and recognizing and fighting cancer cells. So let your body have full access to the resources and being able to come back to homeostasis by not keeping this stress load going. We get to choose where we can reduce stress. And this is a really important one. I know you're starting to see all these connections. Physically, we know that with stress, we tend to feel muscle tension and physical pain. The same is true for these things that we carry with us. And so a study in the Journal of Health Psychology found that participants in forgiveness interventions reported experiencing less back pain, less muscle tension, fewer headaches, reduced chronic body pain. Think about it. The body holds the score. You're talking about somebody's been a pain in the butt. They're a total pain in the neck. Where do you tend to carry tension most often in your body? I can tell you as a body worker, that's what I hear my clients talking about the most. There's plenty of entry points for stress, and we can lighten the load. So let's give ourselves permission to do that. Physical tension often correlates with emotional holding. Forgiveness reduces the sympathetic nervous system activation, which allows muscles to relax. Come out of that fight or flight response that you keep putting yourself into. Let yourself rest and digest. Let that parasympathetic stress activity come back and build your capacity for resilience and recovery. In terms of better longevity, research suggests that people who score higher on measures of forgiveness have lower inflammatory biomarkers and show healthier cellular aging patterns and report fewer stress-related health problems over time. In short, forgiveness looks like it contributes to us living longer and aging healthier. You know that I'm passionate about enjoying our lives now and for all of the years ahead of us. That's why I speak up about these things. We could let it go. We could pretend that business as usual is just fine, but the damage is in the years at the end of the timeline. We might not physically feel the impact. Oh, a headache, a stiff neck. I feel that after sitting at the desk all day. It's not just refusing to forgive someone this thing. Wait until the chronic diseases that are being seeded by our current lifestyle start to let themselves be known. At that point, it's not easy to turn the ship around. It's not easy to resolve those chronic health issues. If you address the epigenetics, if you give your body the healthiest place for it to thrive, to recover, to come into balance, to experience homeostasis, you are less likely to experience these chronic diseases down the line, like I've been talking about. Heart disease, cardiovascular disease, cancers, breathing issues, lack of immune function. We can take control of our well-being. What if forgiveness gave you control like that? Would you consider it? Finally, one of the things, as I already mentioned, heart rate variability, something that is really exciting to me in terms of research. And as they're looking at heart rate variability, it's one of the best markers of resilience. A high heart rate variability means your body can adapt to stress quickly. Studies show that practicing forgiveness increases HRV, which correlates with better emotional flexibility, improved parasympathetic, that rest and digest activity. If you're not digesting your food, you're not getting the nutrients you need. Your cells aren't getting the building blocks that they need in order to function. And a lower chronic stress load. Again, going back to everything we've been looking at, less cortisol and adrenaline, triggering our stress response, wreaking havoc with our cardiovascular health, with our digestive capacity, with our ability to sleep. So all of this is so entwined. It's so entangled. The benefits are very far-reaching. So forgiveness actually returns energy to your system, energy that was previously tied up in tension, in carrying this grudge, this lesson, this burden that you have been carrying. But, you say, how can I forgive people who can't believe what I believe, who don't agree basic, fundamental things? How can we, if we're so ideologically divided, forgive each other? Well, how can we remember our humanity if all we see is how other people are? Because we are all connected. We are sharing this planet. We are sharing families. We are sharing workspaces. We are sharing the roads. Aren't we sick of these stories of road rage, of violence, of all of this that's happening? What if that ego that wants to hold the score becomes the ego of somebody who's going to be the bigger person, who's going to work on extending forgiveness instead of holding people accountable, making sure that they learn their lesson, being the judge and determining how people should be held accountable? What if you let yourself allow some space, bring some curiosity to it? When the world feels polarized, the emotional load is heavy. Trust me, I feel it. I call this podcast Happified because I recognize the benefits of looking for ways to feel more positive more often. I'm not Pollyanna. I'm not moving through this world pretending everything is fine. But I'm also not putting all of my energy and emotion to everything that breaks my heart. Because from that place, I can't help anyone. I put my energy and attention to the actions I'm able to take in my home, in my family, in my community. And I focus on being a point of light because I feel that positive energy is healing. If we all fall down into the depth of the darkness that we feel sometimes when we look at the hopelessness of the world, we can't find solutions from that place. We have to get out of those deep, dark valleys. We have to get to hilltops. We have to find the other light holders. We have to look for ways to collaborate. We have to look for the solutions. And that's why I'm not the one who's going to keep shining a light on all that is painful. I'm not ignoring it. I'm not excusing it. But I'm also not going to hold family members or friends accountable for everything I see in the world because they don't believe that it is wrong as I believe that some of those actions are. Resentment towards groups, towards ideologies, towards folks on the other side drain our nervous systems. You can't shine your light when you're feeling hopeless. The more focus you put on it, the more you're going to see. You find exactly what you're looking for. Again, I'm not saying to turn a blind eye to it. I'm saying keep looking for solutions. Keep looking for bridges. Keep looking for commonalities. Keep extending the conversation, because if we other the people who we do not agree with, then we cannot get back to a point at which we can see what is in common, where we can begin to move forward in ways that benefit everyone. Forgiveness doesn't mean you agree with them. It means releasing the physiological activation around disagreement. So look for ways, if this feels big, and it does, as I say it, it's feeling big. Feel your feels. Again, keep that journal close. Write down your resistance to forgiveness. It's completely fair. Completely fair. Write and then read back and look for themes, look for the hurts, look for the reasons, the protective mechanisms that you feel are within that. And look for ways to start taking baby steps. Look for micro forgiveness practices that you can extend. If you get an email that triggers you, look at how you could forgive their tone that you're perceiving in the written word, right? We all do that. We read someone's words, we put it in a tone of voice that is not necessarily what they intended, but that's what we've assigned, and now we're angry about it. What if you forgave someone's tone in their email? What if you forgive a stranger on social media who chimes in with an insensitive or a harsh comment? What if we take a breath? What if we recognize that the way that they responded is perhaps not necessarily all only about what was said? They could have other things going on. What they said is not personal for us. It might be insightful as to that person and the way that they're operating in the world. It's not up to us to teach them a lesson. It's not up to us to hold them accountable. What if you can forgive them? What if you can forgive family patterns? This is a hard one, but it's so powerful. There are people Native people say, 7 generations of impact, but also in the spiritual practices in the world, looking at generational wounds, generational traumas. If you look at a family pattern, if you heal a family pattern that you see in yourself, you can heal that pattern going back 7 generations. And you know that by healing that pattern in yourself, you are impacting 7 generations forward. I mean, that's an easy line, but think about the capacity to heal family wounds, generational patterns, even going up the line to your ancestors, helping to release that weight karmically, spiritually, energetically, in whatever way that lands with you. Just think about that. Think about forgiving family patterns. People do the best they can with the tools they have at the time. Not everybody has the tools that you have, the space and perspective that you have, the capacity for patience and response that you're developing. So what if you were the one to be the first to extend a little bit of forgiveness in that regard? What if you were to forgive yourself for not having all the answers? Just a little something to think about. Maybe another little journal item there. What if you were to forgive yourself for not having all the answers? So, I've been talking a lot. I'm feeling a little bit triggered. I know that this is probably bringing up some emotions for you too. I'm not saying you're behind where you quote unquote should be in your personal spiritual evolution. These are just questions I'm posing during a time of year when a lot of us are feeling triggered and very emotionally attached to expectations, to outcomes, to experiences. And what if we can step back and bring some perspective, some resilience, and some forgiveness to that family table? So, if you're not driving, if you're not doing something that demands your attention, you can do this with me, or you can bring this practice into your life at another point when it's more feasible for you. Put your hand over your heart, and with a long exhale, releasing emotion, stress, tension. Feel your feet on the ground, feel your seat in the seat, and say to yourself, I am safe to explore this. Feel your heart beating under your hand. I am safe to explore this. Feel your body have a little space to soften before you move into your mind and bring curiosity to how you can unravel some of these old stories. Mindfulness isn't sitting for 45 minutes with a crystal clear and peaceful mind. Mindfulness is having that capacity to tune into your body, to, with an exhale, connect with your body, your mind, and bring curiosity, bring presence to the moment you are in, wherever you are. You might be curious. Again, might be some journal prompts. Identify what needs forgiveness. So you might ask yourself, where do I feel a little charge or tightness about this topic or about this story that I keep carrying? Ask yourself which story keeps popping up, even in small ways. Ask yourself who or what drains my energy when I think about them. It's a pretty good one. Who or what drains my energy when I think about them? If you're responding to holiday invitations in a certain way, a hard no, a big resistance, get curious. Is it the person? Is it somebody who might be there? Is it an experience that's reminding you of another one? Curiosity is such a powerful tool for recognizing what we're working with and starting to look for ways to move through it. You can ask yourself, what do I wish I had done differently? What do I wish I had done differently? Sometimes we hold a grudge against someone else when it's because we didn't have the capacity or the strength in an experience to maintain our boundaries, to respond in a way that we wished we had. We might have fallen down to their level. We might have responded to a trigger within ourselves as opposed to the way that we choose to. So what do I wish I had done differently is another powerful place for self-examination. You are invited to reframe forgiveness as a self-care practice. What if instead of they don't deserve forgiveness, you change that story to I deserve peace? You aren't going to solve the world's problems. You aren't going to solve all of your own problems by carrying a burden around with you, by literally having that on your shoulders, by letting it take up residence in your spiritual and emotional body. They are not learning the lessons that you are holding over yourself. That's not how it works. That's not the energetic exchange. So what if you freed yourself? What if you demonstrated to them that they're not worth your anger, your bitterness, your brokenheartedness? What if you released those chains that have tied yourself and let them be responsible for the lessons that life is going to be teaching them? So I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear what comes up for you. If there's struggle with any of these ideas, I encourage you to please reach out to me through happifiedlife.com, my website. There's a way to be in touch with me as a coach. I love to help people dig into these issues, to look at things with fresh perspective, to get a new idea, a new way moving forward, to look at ways we can release the burdens that we carry. When we turn down the volume and the stress that is at that low level or a high level in terms of what we're talking about today, sometimes these stories, these lessons we carry with us are really holding us back more than you can ever recognize. You can't read the label when you're inside the jar, right? So if this is a way in which I can provide support, I hope you'll reach out to me. I have a short consultation. You'll find that on my website as well. Or let's just dive in and commit to coaching and working through it, because committing to the journey and your healing is the way to move forward. And it all starts to untangle itself and unwind those patterns together. It's a really beautiful process. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. I hope this has started to shift some things for you and your perspective. Thank you for being a part of the community and for making time for yourself today. I'm so grateful for you shining your light in this world when we need it the most. And until next time, take good care of yourself. Thanks for listening. You'll find all the resources we discussed today online at happifiedlife.com, along with links to subscribe to Happified on your favorite player and a handy search tool so you can search all of our previous episodes. Help us grow by leaving a quick review and share this episode with a friend. Until next time, keep on shining.